Hey friends, how are we all? So my name is Via Garrity and this is Say It Scared, which is a podcast and video all about connecting to your own authentic voice. And today I'm going to be talking about why do we stay in jobs that we hate? So this video is for you if you're in a job and you know it's making you really miserable, really unhappy. Maybe you're sort of feeling really trapped. Maybe you're feeling stifled. You're feeling like every day you're like, I'm not meant to be doing this. But despite feeling like that, you find yourself continuously stuck in this job, or perhaps it's a job that gives you burnout a lot, or you get stressed a lot. But you find yourself, you keep on staying stuck to this particular job or this particular industry or a particular role that ultimately, deep down or not that deep down, isn't right for you. So to give you the context of why I'm talking about this, I worked in finance for probably 6 or 7 years. And this kind of surprises people. I mean, if you look at me, do I look like a woman who should be working in finance, in the financial service industry? No, but I worked in finance for, probably about 6 years. And I had this continuous sort of pattern with finance where, and don't get me wrong, there was definitely not all bad things about it, but in terms of it being a fit for me, it probably wasn't quite right. And I felt quite stifled. I felt trapped. I felt like I couldn't be myself. I felt like I was always going against the grain of who I naturally am. And I felt really trapped and stifled. I'd be doing things outside of work to sort of like express my creativity. I did acting, I did improv, I did lots of public speaking, and I was sort of like doing this outside of work. And I was finding freedom in these events. Like these events were kind of helping me make me feel free. But for a long time, I just kept on going back to this environment and, different jobs and things like that. But I kept on being drawn back to this environment in the city, in finance, which ultimately just made me feel really, 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 really trapped. And I'm sharing that story in case I think it's quite a common theme. I've known a lot of people, particularly accountants, who have stayed in jobs and things like that, and they just feel really trapped. So what's going on here? Why do we do this? Why do we stay in jobs that we hate? And one of the first reasons, and I think obviously the most obvious reason, is money, is survival. And if we look at the hierarchy of needs, and I apologize, I have completely forgotten the name of the man who came up with the hierarchy of needs, but you might have seen it. It's like a triangle, and it's got kind of the different things humans need to survive. And the more like one is met, we can go on to the next thing. So right at the top of the triangle, like the ultimate kind of what we want once we've got needs based is self-actualization. Actualization. So this is where we're kind of like living our purpose. We're on the planet doing what we're meant to do. We're the most authentic versions of ourselves. We're fully in line with our purpose, right? That's like self-actualization. And that's right at the top of the triangle. And then at the bottom of the triangle, we have our core survival needs. So these are things like food, shelter, physical safety, to be safe from war and things like that. Things like, almost like our animalistic needs of what we need to literally survive, what our bodies need to survive and be on this planet. Because if we don't have them survival needs met, then we're not going to be self-actualization. If we're physically not here, we're not going to be writing poetry and all this stuff. And you can see this a lot, if you look at like very wealthy people, for example, or people who are born into very wealthy families. You see this a lot in the arts industry, where you have, a lot of like maybe creative roles and actors and things like that. A lot of the time we consider they kind of had their wealthy families, so they had that kind of financial safety that were able to kind of support the self-actualization and things like that. So often if we're in a job and we think we need that particular job, we need it to survive. We need that job for survival. We need the money. We need that money to keep us alive. So when we find ourselves sort of feeling trapped, and perhaps, you leave one job, but you go back to a similar one or whatever it is, this can actually be a sign that these two needs are in conflict with each other. So, or we perceive them to be in conflict with each other. So you have the need I mentioned at the beginning, self-actualization and expression and all that stuff. And then you have the need for human survival, food, water. It's when they come into conflict. So if you look at that, there's a part of you, and maybe this is the part of you that's sabotaging the job in some way, or doing things like that. It's this part of you that's like wanting to be free and self-actualize and whatever it is. And then there's the other part of you. It's like, oh my God, we need to survive. Okay. I need to look after myself. Like why are you, if we look at things like self-actualization, like they don't necessarily and don't obviously go hand in hand with our survival or material gain at all. Like if you had a really strong desire, your self-actualization, to be a musician, for example, that makes no logical sense in terms of your survival. Okay, no one needs to be a musician. Like that's like a desire. That doesn't make sense in terms of if you're thinking, I want financial security, I want this stuff. Like that doesn't make sense. It's a core need. It comes from somewhere within, and it can come into conflict even with our need to survive. So it might be that we have quite fixed ideas about survival. We might think that survival, we have to be in finance, we have to be in a particular job, we have to have a certain amount of money to survive. We might believe that. So I'm just thinking a little bit, for example, if we put it this way, so I'm an immigrant in Australia actually, but when I grew up in England, I was a third generation immigrant. So both sets of my grandparents moved to England to survive, and both sets of grandparents at one time or another in their life experienced poverty for different reasons and things like that, but they did experience having no money at certain stages of their life. And I always say I grew up in poverty's shadow, because I didn't grow up in poverty, but that fear, or even, I didn't grow up rich either, for sure. We definitely had times growing up when I was a child where we didn't have any money and things were tight, and I couldn't, and my parents are wonderful and I never really wanted for anything, but we definitely had times where, maybe we couldn't go on holiday, maybe I couldn't go on school trips. Like they were, stressed around money, and I could tell they were very stressed about money. So when you've got that kind of like fear of poverty, maybe it's in your own life, or maybe it's within your grandparents, your parents' life. When that fear of poverty exists and we've experienced it, whether personally or we've seen other people be afraid by it, that we're almost like kind of all running from that. Like we definitely don't want that. Like we don't want to not have any money again. So we're kind of in this state of fear, doing whatever we can, like in this survival mode, to make sure that we have money, basically, because we want to meet that core survival need. And I bring up the immigrant thing because you see this a lot, where often like the children of immigrants, and I definitely had this less from my parents, but more from my grandparents. If they've experienced that hard life, they'll encourage you to go into a safe career, like, maybe classics, like be an accountant, be a solicitor, be a lawyer, be a doctor. Like it's quite common for immigrant families to try and, give their children and stuff that good education so that they can go into a safe career, because they're ultimately chasing safety and security and survival, because maybe they had a time in their lives where they didn't have that. Which is, that's fair enough. And I have nothing but the biggest respect and, anything for these people that have clawed themselves out of a really difficult life experience. But the issue with that sometimes is that fear that you might have seen in you or people in your family can actually sort of stop you from maybe following your purpose and doing the thing you want to do. And I think it could be worth evaluating. And, I do want to be really clear in this, that fully acknowledge the privilege of the society I grew up in and living in now, where we do have options to kind of choose different careers, because there's plenty of parts of the world where people definitely do not have that. But one thing I would say, if you're finding yourself in that pattern of thinking, being stuck in a job because you're like, I need this to survive, I would just try and really just look at that and just ask yourself, just really check in with yourself, maybe have some quiet time, like meditate and be like, is this true? Is this true? Is this the only way? Is this the only way that I can survive? Just ask yourself that, journal on it, quiz yourself. The other reason we might stay in jobs we hate is about value. So this might be how we value things, what we put above, what we put above each other. So say, for example, if you say you meet someone who's a lawyer and you're like, wow, oh my God, they're a lawyer. And maybe subconsciously or consciously, you place them above someone who has a different job. Like, I don't know, maybe like someone who works in a shop, for example. You might be like, oh, right, okay. Like we have this like social hierarchy, right? And often our identities are very, very much based on what we do for a living. It's not, this is the irony, because I was talking earlier about, thinking we need a job to survive, and that's all about survival. But the other element that comes into play is identity. And that thing you're really good at, and the thing that is your purpose, and the thing that you're on this planet to do, somewhere, for some reason, you might not actually value that. And this could have been something you learned growing up. This could have been something that was taught to you. This could have been something that you picked up ultimately. So there's a part of you that special thing that is your gift, you might not value it. So again, like my personal example with this was that I was working in finance, and if someone was very mathematical, like say maybe like an economist or a banker, or someone that had like a very scientific brain, good with money, very analytical, what we would sometimes classify as maybe masculine skills, if we're going to go down that route. I would put these people massively above me, because I was like, wow, that's what success looks like. That's what I value. Oh my God, they're CEO. Like, wow. Like, I put these people above me. And then the things that came like really naturally to me, which is like talking, coming up with ideas, improvising, being creative, follow my intuition. I always like to make people feel safe. Like I'm always like to make people feel very included. I'm always very aware. I used to joke because I could tell when people were going to leave their job, because I could literally sense that they weren't happy. Like I could just like really strong intuition. But because all this stuff came really naturally to me, I just didn't value it. Like I didn't see it as a skill, because I was like, well, that's easy, because I find it easy. So I thought, like your work and like your job, it had to be something you found really hard. And I could give you an example of this. Like I'm fairly good at maths, but I don't particularly enjoy maths. I'm not like intrigued by maths. But I was like, okay, well that's a valuable skill. Maths is more valuable than words and things that I found, flew naturally. And that was a belief I had. So if you have your value system like that, like you're chasing value, essentially. You're like, I want to be a valuable person, so I'm going to chase this. I'm going to make myself into this person or someone like this, because who I am naturally is of not much value. So a way to sort of come over this get over this even, is to really be honest with what you're good at and look at your skills and, things you can offer. And again, it could be stuff that you find really easy. And maybe find an example of someone who has similar skill set, who is doing very well, or making a lot of money from them skills, or really sharing them skills with people, and or how you get value. So for example, if we take the example of the musician, so if you're someone, you have this desire to sing and to make music, and it can be sing, I don't know, you could be a DJ, it can be anyone who creates music, and you might think, oh, I'm not going to pursue that path of music because it's not valuable. Like I should focus my attention on being an accountant. I'm not going to pursue that path. And a way that you can really challenge that judgment in your own head is the way to take that judgment in your own head is to actually be like, when have I listened to music and it's made my day? When have I listened to song lyrics and it's made me see the world differently? When has music brought so much value into my life? And you can actually like start to look at your own life about this. You can be like, where am I spending my money, and where am I actually getting the most value for stuff? So if you're going, say you spend $100 to go to, I've got no idea, a music gig, and you're like, this is amazing, like this, this gives me a lust for life, like this is incredible, I love this music. Then you can see, you're like, I value that experience, I value music, and then apply that to yourself. So that's one of the ways. And then I think other things to do is, if we hate our jobs, I think it's to really look at what experiences your body is used to. So when we're really connected to our bodies, we get this kind of example, you might meet someone and you just don't like them, like something's off, something's not right. And we can apply this to anything. You might go to a restaurant and eat some food and you're like, I don't like this kind of food. Or I really do like this kind of food. Or you might go to a particular holiday destination and you're like, oh my God, I love this place, this is so me. And you might go to another one and be like, this is absolutely not me at all, I don't like it. So if we kind of like look at our likes and preferences, and the more in touch you are with yourself and the more you trust yourself, the more you're like, you care if you don't like something. And really be honest, because some people will go into an environment that they don't like and straight away they're like, this is not for me, I don't like it, I'm out, see you, goodbye. And I've known, I won't name her, but I had a friend years ago who, she got a job and she was a very creative person, and the job was like really boring, not right for her. And she literally walked into the office or wherever she was working and she was like, nah, this is not me. And she like basically resigned the same day because she was like, no, absolutely not. So yeah, some people are like very connected to their likes and dislikes and they're like, no. And again, there's a real big difference between, because of course, if you want to achieve anything in life, then you're probably going to do stuff that you don't enjoy, and it's not always going to be fun, and there's going to be hard work and things like that. But there's a difference between that and also just knowing when an environment is not right for you. And the flip side of this is sometimes, like, maybe we're used to being in environments that we don't like. Like maybe we grew up in a family or a home environment that we didn't like, and so we're just used to feeling like that. Maybe we maybe we didn't like school and we just had to stay at school for however long we stay at school. What is it like? No, it's not 15 years, it's not that much, is it? How long do we spend at school? God, maybe 10, 11, 12 years. Like, or maybe we just hated school, but we had to stay there. So we actually get used to staying in environments we don't like. So we might not even dream of better. We might not even dream of better. Like there's this thing, it's a bit of like a boomer saying, but you know how the boomers, God bless you boomers, they might just say, oh, you just get on with it. You just get on with it. Like you just suppress how you feel and you just get on with it. And then you see like Gen Z, millennials, and we're much more like, if we don't like something, this is what I mean about the hierarchy of needs. Because if you look at it, boomers were like further back in history, right? So they were more close to survival needs. But if you look at like Gen Z are all about purpose. Gen Z are all about authenticity. Gen Z is all about that. So we've actually kind of climbed up the hierarchy of needs. So we often case, and not always, if you're younger, you can, we have more trust in our likes and our dislikes. So it might be that you're actually just really used to suppressing your emotions, and you're used to staying in place. You're like, well, this is life. This is life to just do something I don't enjoy and spend my years doing this. And I've definitely been there. And I would say the kind of solution to that is, you don't have to do anything rash, but you can find environments and safe spaces. And this could be yoga, so good for this. So it could be a yoga lesson where you've got a teacher that kind of really helps you get in touch with what feels good and what doesn't feel good. And really good yoga teachers, they're often very much like, they say like, this is your yoga class, this is your experience, you adapt it to what you need. So yeah, I think that's one thing to check your likes and dislikes. And that's it really for me today. These are kind of things I wanted to kind of cover. One thing, so Say It Scared is, I'm hosting online workshops which are sort of all around public speaking. But the idea with Say It Scared is it's kind of not your classic public speaking workshop where I'm like, stand like this, speak like this, this is how we speak. It's all about getting in touch with your authentic voice and your own personal unique voice, and learning how to share that with other people. And this is very, very relevant to the job thing. My career changed into one I love when I started getting in touch with my voice and sharing it with other people. Because before that, again, because I put other things above me, I was always living for the external. I was always, I didn't value my authentic self. So I built a life based on what I thought looked good or was successful or fear or whatever it was. And again, had a job that wasn't right for me. I had friends I didn't feel connected to. I had partners that put me down because everything was in that way. And then as soon as I started getting in touch with my authentic voice and trusting my authentic voice and valuing my authentic voice and sharing it with the world, I just gravitated people and opportunities that also valued that. So I will be hosting a workshop. It's online on the 21st of April. It's 90 minutes. It's free. Please sign up. I'll put the link on this video. And yeah, within 90 minutes, and it's all about creating a safe space to really connect to your authentic voice and get you to share it with other people. So that's everything for me. If you did like this, then please subscribe and please share it because it means I'm more likely to make more. Thank you.